Today, I'll examine the relationship between government and business, a relationship that is rarely entirely cooperative or entirely adversarial. Public institutions establish rules, shape markets, and pursue broader social goals, while private enterprises focus on creating value, managing risk, and competing effectively. The central question is how these two forces influence one another, and why that dynamic matters for every business decision. As we move through this topic, we'll consider where collaboration creates opportunity, where conflict emerges, and how organizations can respond. Governments and businesses are the two dominant forces shaping an economy. Governments establish the rules, policies, and conditions that influence how markets operate, while businesses drive investment, production, employment, and innovation. Neither acts in isolation. Their relationship determines how capital moves, how opportunities are created, and how economic benefits are distributed across society. That relationship is dynamic, not fixed. At times, government and business work as partners. At others, they come into conflict shaped by policy choices, economic conditions, ideology, and the circumstances of the moment. Collaboration emerges when government and business interests align around a thriving, stable economy. Governments benefit from tax revenue and employment, while businesses depend on infrastructure, stability, and customers. The goal is mutual benefit, not simply government support for its own sake. This can take the form of public-private partnerships that fund roads, broadband, and transit. Governments may also provide research and development subsidies for fields such as biotech, clean energy, and defense. Finally, aligned trade policies can open international markets for domestic exporters through negotiated agreements. This slide focuses on the economic logic behind public-private partnership. Both sides participate because collaboration serves their interests. Governments are looking for economic growth, more employment, and stronger tax revenue. Businesses, meanwhile, need stability, access to skilled workers, and opportunities to reach markets. When those incentives align, partnership becomes more than political or commercial choice. It becomes a practical strategy for achieving results that neither side could deliver alone. That shared logic has supported major achievements, including advances in space exploration and pharmaceutical breakthroughs. Governments support businesses in several distinct ways. Subsidies and tax breaks provide direct financial assistance or reduce tax burdens, often to encourage investment in priority industries or regions. Regulatory protection, including tariffs, import quotas, and licensing rules, can shield domestic companies from foreign or disruptive competition. Workforce development strengthens the talent pipeline through public funding for education, training, and apprenticeships. Finally, contract and procurement programs make governments major customers, especially in defense, healthcare, and IT, helping sustain entire industries through public sector demand. Conflict arises when government priorities and business interests move in different directions. Governments may emphasize regulation, taxation, or social mandates to protect the public and address broader social needs. Businesses, meanwhile, may focus on growth, efficiency, and financial sustainability. These are often legitimate goals, but they can compete with one another. The result may be tension over operating costs, compliance requirements, or the pace of change. Understanding this opposition helps explain why cooperation between the two sides can be difficult, even when both are pursuing outcomes they consider important. This slide highlights the main areas where tensions between businesses and governments tend to emerge. Regulation and compliance costs are a central source of conflict because environmental, labor, and safety requirements can reduce profitability and flexibility. Taxation is another contested area, including corporate rates, capital gains, and international rules. Antitrust enforcement creates friction when governments block mergers or break up monopolies to protect consumers. Finally, social and environmental mandates, such as emission standards, minimum wage requirements, and data privacy rules, add obligations that businesses may resist. This slide shows how regulatory tension unfolds in practice. It often begins with market freedom, as businesses seek flexibility and minimal government interference. Then, a crisis, abuse, or market failure creates a regulatory event, prompting authorities to act. The result is a new compliance reality, where firms must adapt, lobby for changes, or legally challenge the rules. This cycle does not happen just once. It repeats across industries and eras, from railroad monopolies in the 1890s to today's technology antitrust cases. Recognizing an industry's position in the cycle is essential for strategic planning. When businesses disagree with government policy, they typically respond through lobbying, the primary legal channel for influencing legislation and regulation. Business influence operates through several coordinated strategies. Industry associations pool resources for advocacy, companies hire former officials through the so-called revolving door, and campaign contributions can shape political priorities. Public relations efforts also work to influence voters and consumers. A prominent example is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which consistently ranks as the largest lobbying spender in Washington, D.C. Business relationships are rarely purely cooperative or purely adversarial. The same company can occupy all three positions at once, depending on the issue. For example, a pharmaceutical company may collaborate with the NIH on vaccine research and benefit from FDA fast-track approval. At the same time, it complies with drug pricing regulations while lobbying through industry groups for policy reform. And in another arena, it may oppose government directly by suing over licensing laws that require patent sharing with generic producers. Context, industry, and timing shape each relationship. The key takeaway is that business strategy must account for the relationship between industry and government, track where collaboration or conflict is heading, understand political incentives and cycles, engage policymakers early, and treat compliance as a strategic variable. In regulated industries, that perspective can create meaningful competitive advantage.